Hello, everybody. I am Will.
And I'm Kristen.
And this is So I'm Watching Gossip Girl, Season 1, Episode 1, 2007's
Woo!
Gossip Girl. You are so excited. I was a little bit dragging my feet.
You were. I've been suggesting this, first of all, since we started the podcast, that we should do Gossip Girl. But then more recently, I've been like, we should really try to cram some stuff in. So we've just got a cache of stuff that we can release.
I remember, because I technically never finished.
Neither did
the series.
Yeah.
I do know how it ends.
Me
but
too.
I remember somewhere around season 4, it getting sort of
I think we only didn't finish the final season, though.
I don't think I finished 5.
Oh, okay.
But basically, I remember it sort of chasing its tail a little bit, and that part stuck with me more than how much I loved the first season.
I think the first 2 seasons, because the way season 2 opens in the Hamptons is also really good.
We start in the Hamptons, which is a staple of New York socialites that you haven't yet seen. And, you know, we've all kind of dated each other, so we have to date more people or each other's parents, and I don't know.
When you were we just have to, you're we only have to take it one step at a time. And I was like, okay, I feel better about that. Because taking on a show, and this is back when shows were 22 episodes long. And that is just so much more of an undertaking. I remember being chafed when things started switching to 13, 10,
8, 6.
Yeah,
sometimes.
but now I really adapted to that. So I guess starting off, how do we want to handle things like spoilers?
I don't remember a ton. So I will likely be okay not spoiling stuff. Do you want to spoil something specifically? I don't think we should talk about the big spoiler that we know.
I kind of want to. I don't know, because it's I know it. I know that there is a big spoiler. Yeah. I know what it is, and I know that it is incomprehensible.
Sure.
And so there's times where
I do sort of want to be watching this episode and being so that character is reading the Gossip Girl post that they wrote?
It just now, I remember the first time watching this being how did a certain character get onto Gossip Girl's radar?
Sure.
And I was
sure. Oh.
And it is so funny in hindsight.
Yeah.
And weirdly, I think there's a case to be made, especially when you take out the handful of inconsistencies. There's a handful of outright contradictions.
Yeah.
If you take those out, I think it actually makes a lot.
It's fun. Yeah. It totally makes sense. There's also other inconsistencies in this episode, because Chuck more than once mentions his mother and his parents in this episode, and his mother is dead.
Is she?
Yeah.
I don't remember that. But
yeah, because I was we were watching it and I was isn't his mother dead? And then he just kept talking about his parents, both parents.
I remember tonal things. I'm also not looking forward to the decline of Jenny Humphrey.
Oh yeah.
But I forgot how she was our favorite.
She is great
in season 1.
Jenny's great in season 1.
So I guess mild spoil. Don't watch this if you
haven't watched the show.
It's a 13-year-old show at this point, 10-year-old show at this point. So this is your spoiler warning.
Yeah.
We will try to be tasteful with how we.
Yeah, I'm gonna not try to do a lot. But there might be stuff that we remember from the future.
So, okay.
There's also a bonkers amount of stuff that gets set up in this episode. So.
2007.
Oh boy.
Would you say?
There is nothing but Timbaland on the radio. Everyone's wearing too many layers. It's ridiculous. It's amazing.
I kind of feel this is the last remaining. This is the last
bastion of a dying
of the world before,
of a dying television landscape.
Well, and even just just tonally, there's things there's two rapes,
two attempted rapes in this episode,
and it's that just doesn't fly anymore.
No, well, it especially doesn't fly in the sense that here's a spoiler. That the character of Chuck Bass becomes a romantic lead, the secondary, tertiary romantic lead of this series, and he is the one who attempts both rapes. And that is sort of like that kind of shit doesn't happen anymore.
The Jenny one is prolonged.
It's a lot. It's like it's multiple. They cut back to it multiple times at different stages.
She's properly fighting him.
So is Serena.
Yeah, but it's like Serena kind of shuts it down.
Yeah.
Where Jenny, it like minutes are passing of her like
struggling.
Like,
yeah.
It just feels exhausting.
Yeah. Well, and also Serena is like taller than Chuck, and she's got some meat on her bones in like in a good way, and Taylor Momsen is like this big. And
oh man, so we did not I also think it's very important to say that we were 21
when
this came out,
21 22ish.
And that informs our initial and will inform our revisit, I think, greatly.
Yeah, I agree.
Because this was for us when it came out.
Yeah.
And neither of us watched the first season when it aired.
No, you bought it. Actually, it's over there somewhere, isn't it?
No, I don't have it.
Oh, you don't have it here? Yeah, you bought the little season 1 DVD.
I watched The Soup on E religiously, and they kind of covered it.
Yeah.
So I knew story beats from season 1, and that's when they like played a clip from the finale, and it was really funny. And that's when I was like, okay, we're gonna watch this. And it was a combination of that and the absolutely brilliant marketing campaign.
So good.
Because when this show came out, it flew kind of under the radar. It wasn't a smash hit immediately. And ratings wise, it never really was a big hit. It was more culturally pervasive. And I remember the CW kept it around because it like sold product.
And I think it was also, I think it was consistent enough that the lower numbers weren't as damaging as they are when something plummets.
No, well, yeah, but it was like if there was music on the show, it charted on iTunes. If they wore clothes, those clothes sold out.
I think Tresemme is like a sponsor at one point.
So I remember this was really when I was getting into how the industry works. I remember thinking that was really smart, where they're like, well, it doesn't make immediate money, but they were like,
it spreads.
Yeah. It was very interesting. But they had this ad campaign where it was like the Parent Television Council or something, but several people like wrote really scathing.
Yeah, I'm sure it was like Moms for America or whatever.
Negative reviews. And they like plastered these reviews on like kind of scandalous imagery from the first few episodes.
Well, the one is just Blake Lively's like thrown back face from the scene with Nate at the party last year,
and it said like a nasty piece of work,
and then they all just say like OMFG at the bottom.
And at the time, they got away with that because no one knew what that was, and it like and I remember just being very sort of tickled by like, oh, you think this is gonna hurt me?
Yeah.
This only makes me stronger.
LOL.
And so that's where I was like, okay, I'll give them my money. We're already so far into this, and I'm like, where do we start?
Yeah. Well, Serena's back from boarding school.
I don't remember. Okay. I don't remember how many elements were smashed into this pilot.
Right away.
There are so many plots.
Right away.
Yeah. And this was never a subtle show, but I don't remember it being this ham-fisted.
Well, like, okay, so the thing is, like, I appreciate them getting the ball rolling on stuff, but I had forgotten that it was in this episode that Lily and Rufus meet again, and I was like, oh, immediately.
There's so many of those, like,
a lot of weird coincidences for an American classic.
Like, this is the Great Gatsby of
it really is.
The digital age.
Oh man, yeah, that is super funny.
But all of all of the fashion, all of their hair is just.
Well, Dan's hair is absolutely terrible.
Oh god, the fucking sideburns too.
The sideburns.
He looks like a Monchichi.
Yeah, the sideburns would be fine if it weren't like buzzed on top. They let him. I think in episode 2, his hair is longer, but everyone else's hair is like honestly pretty fabulous.
Well, it's like none of it's terrible, but everybody's hair is like 20% off, or it's like like there's a line where Blair's mother was like, and put some product in your hair, and I was like, there is so much product, and everybody's hair is so textured.
Well, and that's the other thing too, is like Serena has this sort of really smooth like angled haircut, and it's like, where are the beachy waves that where is that?
Well, she's also, so as you mentioned, she's back, which that is a brilliant, well, go with gimmick, but it's like, basically we're introduced to this show, which is about, rich people behaving badly.
Yeah.
But we're introduced with a season-long mystery, which is, where did she go and who am I?
Yeah. And why it's like, why did she leave? Where did she go? Why is she back?
And who is Gossip Girl? Yeah. And it, like, so much so that you mentioned that originally it had like a Dawson's Creek style opening.
Yeah.
And I don't remember it. I'm taking your word on that it was terrible.
So I've only ever seen it after the fact. They never aired it. It just was like a...
Well, the current opening is the correct choice.
Yes.
And especially with that narration.
Yeah.
Because it sort of... I feel like it allows you to pick it up at any point.
Yeah.
And sort of be like, oh, what?
Ooh, what? Yeah. And also it is Kristen Bell, which is also correct.
We didn't know. And I remember we were watching I think we were watching something else, and you looked it up. You looked up Kristen Bell's IMDb, and you were like, 72 episodes of Gossip Girl?
Who the fuck was she on Gossip Girl? I do remember that. I was like, are you kidding me? I was like, that's crazy.
And then you were like, oh, she's Gossip Girl.
Yeah.
So good, too. Like, and it was that a stunt? I mean, she wasn't really a person
in 2007. I want to say it was around the same time as Veronica Mars, but I'm not 100%.
I wonder how she got the gig, because about...
This was after she got this, like, right on the heels of Veronica Mars.
Talk about putting in work.
Yeah.
I mean, she is giving it.
Oh my God, yeah. She's acting it exactly correctly. It's so good.
There also... the needle drops in this pilot. I counted 14. I don't even know, but it's like you could just tell that the CW is afraid that people are going to get bored or confused and change the channel. Yeah. So they're just like, bring in another hit.
More music.
So, okay, Serena comes back.
Yep.
We don't know what she was in Connecticut. The Serena and Blair stuff is so good.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Serena's certainly in season 1, I think she's an interesting lead, because I feel like she's the one that typically, like, she's the pretty blonde. Like, typically you would think she would be the mean girl, and to have Blair be the more traditional mean girl.
Yeah, I also love it too, because we get a lot of comments about how Serena is, like, different than she was before, but we are for the most part only seeing this Serena who is happening in front of us and who is, like, nice and a good person and all this stuff. So it is interesting in that way too, to, like, have to make us look back at her bad behavior and, like, what made her change and what, because I mean, she essentially crossed a personal Rubicon when she had sex with Nate, and then she was like, oh, I gotta go, I gotta get my shit together.
Well, other things happened, but yeah.
Well, other things happened, but she kind of was like, I have to, like, get my only right now, all we know is that she had sex with Nate.
So, yeah.
But it's like, that's the thing that's so funny to me, is that even in sort of, like, retrospect, even looking at her worst behavior, Blair is still more of a bitch.
It just, the implications of so many things in this show are staggering, because we have Chuck and Blair, we have,
Nate and Blair.
We have Dan likes Serena and has ever since 9th grade, like a year ago, I guess. Or you determined they were juniors?
They are, because season 2 says senior year. So that's what I was going for from that.
And it's just like, to have this, like, amount of growth, to have Serena be like, I'm a different person now. And I'm like, I mean, what? Duh, everybody is. Like,
duh, what are we doing here?
She comes back because her younger brother Eric attempts to commit suicide, which, again, wow.
Yeah.
And not to say that wouldn't be a plot. I mean, it certainly would be now, but I feel like it's treated very casually in.
It is, especially because, like, Lily is very she's cavalier about the fact that he tried to kill himself, but she is she is so staunchly opposed to having anybody see him out and about in Manhattan because they might know that he tried to kill himself. And it's just like, I mean,
well, because Serena even says something.
That's not the way to deal with it for good publicity.
She even says something about like your reputation. And I'm like, is Lily that kind of?
Well, she is. I think she has just divorced her 4th billionaire husband.
I don't know. That feels like a characterization that doesn't stick. And I do wonder.
Lily does some questionable things.
Okay.
Later. She treats Serena questionably. I mean, Serena makes some questionable decisions, but Lily does not treat her with like an unconditional love like she should.
Not everyone can be Nate's dad.
Jesus Christ. I feel like, though, at least with Nate's dad, you know what you're getting.
I guess. Nate never stood a chance.
Because you remember his mom, too, is such a piece of garbage. She's such a useless mom.
I do now.
You do now? I think her name is Anne. Anne Archibald.
She's awful.
Yeah. Well, the captain is also terrible.
As I recall, Nate is sort of a weird entity on the show.
Yeah. They never like super know what to do with him. It doesn't always. It's like he's either like he's with Blair or he's like still in love with Serena, or at one point he becomes best friends with Dan, and it's like there's really nothing. And then he dates Vanessa for a little while, and it's just like, what's happening? It's super weird.
I remember like wanting him to be gay so badly, and like season 1 I was like, come on. It just felt like it felt, but it like in that regard though, it does feel authentic, because I do feel like everyone knew that one guy who was like cute and like sweet and, you know, maybe not the brightest. Yeah. And he just had terrible parents. And it was just like, buddy, you never stood a chance.
Because it is, again, with the immediacy of the storylines, his parents are prostituting him out in this episode. His dad is like, get back together with Blair because I'm trying to make a business arrangement with her mom.
And it's like, Eleanor. Ugh.
Yikes.
And then on top of that, his best friend is Chuck Bass. Ugh. And in what reality do they take the bus?
So, okay, that is actually a trivia piece from the pilot. This is the only time they ever take the bus. Every other episode, they're in a private limo.
Yeah. I was like, I
think it was a weird, it was like
filming. They needed that meet cute.
Exactly. And it was like a meet cute for Dan. But I do think it's worth it for that like double punch of the thing with Dan, where he's like, again, I go to your school. Like you've seen me around. I'm a human person that exists around you.
Fucking Rufus. I don't know what to say.
I was like, where are we going? What are we doing?
Well, I remember loving Rufus, and certainly I remember loving making fun of Rufus.
Yeah.
And they do set up, there's so many elements in this, because it's like he was like a one-hit wonder from the 90s.
They had because Lisa Loeb is in an episode of this show.
That is right.
He I think they were like medium successful, because he has enough money to have that loft in Brooklyn. Sure. And so I think, and he runs like an art gallery, which it could go either way. But so I think they were medium successful. I don't think they were necessarily a one-hit wonder, but I think they maybe had like 2 albums. And so they were just like a really early 90s, like alt rock contempo kind of band.
And so Lily was like a groupie.
Yeah. And who apparently plowed Trent Reznor with, like, who among us would not do the same? Especially modern Trent Reznor.
But that's just, that's a fun glimpse into.
Well, and this is also, if I remember correctly, this is like maybe the first show that we had watched where the parents were like from the correct decade. Because they were like in the early 90s is when the parents were like doing these things. And that always really stuck out to me as being appropriate, because it's like, if you're 17 in 2007.
Wasn't there a Gossip Girl spinoff?
About Lily?
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't
But they like put her in the 80s in it, didn't they?
I think it was like.
It was Anna Sophia Robb, right?
No, that's the Carrie Diaries.
Okay.
But there was one, I don't think it lasted very long at all, but it was like not terrible. But also, if she's meant to be in high school, she would have been in high school in the 80s, but they were like young adults together in the 90s.
Okay.
Because if these kids are 16, 17, then they would have been born in like 90, 91, 92 in 2007. So that's like, it works. It makes sense.
But there's so many, in hindsight, there's so many funny things where it's like, because Dan and Jenny are helping Rufus with his like show.
Yeah.
And they're like, you ever heard of MySpace? Which woof. And he Rufus is like, that's the problem with bands these days. They need to get off blogs and get into the studio or something.
He got so mad. He was like, the amount of work MySpace
changed the industry. People just like Christina Perri has a career because of MySpace. Like it complete because it gave people a platform to go from their computer to whatever. Yeah. I was die hard MySpace. I loved MySpace. I very grudgingly went over to Facebook, and it just sort of, well, somebody, I forget who bought it. Somebody bought MySpace and ran into the ground.
Justin Timberlake.
Well, no, he bought it after that.
Oh, person. After the first purchase.
But it was like when Yahoo bought Tumblr, and it was like, well,
yeah.
But it's never, they claim it's not going to change. It does. It's never going to be the same. But, should we explain the truffle story?
We can. I feel like we've done it on another episode, but so, okay, Chuck, first of all, these young children are drinking dirty martinis, which is...
I mean, this rich, probably. Like, maybe. This unchecked.
Serena sucks that martini down. Anyway, she keeps drinking, and she's at the plaza, which Chuck's dad owns. And he comes in, she gets wasted, and he's like, let me make you a truffle grilled cheese. And he was like, ew.
No, well, yes.
You were like, ew, that sounds bad, because he thought it was chocolate. And I was like, no, it's not chocolate. I was like, it's like the things in the ground that the pigs get.
I was like, I didn't know what a truffle was at the time. Because again, to me, a truffle was like
a sweet chocolate.
Like a lint chocolate. Yeah. And you were like, no, you're like, it would be good with a grilled cheese. And I was like, how? And you just kept, it went on longer than you think it should or would. But you kept trying to explain to me what a truffle was. And I was getting further and further away from it because we never got to the savory part. Mm-hmm. So I was trying to imagine fully formed like
chocolate truffles
confections in the ground.
Yeah.
And you were like, or like by trees, and you're like, the pigs like them, but sometimes they use dogs because the dogs don't want them as much as the pigs do. So you're breaking down like truffle hunting for me, and I don't even know what it is.
Well, the pigs want to eat them because they smell like pheromones, and the dogs just are trained to sniff them out.
I recall.
Yeah. It's
so
fascinating.
And so finally, we just let it go because I was like, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
And then like several months later, I was watching season 1 again with Brittany this time, and she made a similar comment. And I paused it, like, what is a truffle? And Brittany goes, oh, it's like a mushroom.
Yeah. Didn't occur to me. Sorry.
And I was so angry. I was like...
You were pretty angry.
Because it had come up like once or twice, and so that began a presumably lifelong love of truffles for me.
Yeah.
Because actually, like 2 or 3 years after that, you got me a whole truffle Christmas.
I did.
It was salts, oils, and butters.
That's like mostly it. It's the kiss on the lips party.
Yeah, Jenny's got the right idea. Yeah. She's trying
to get in there and socialize a little, which is as her right. And then Serena shows up at the party. Nate admits that he had sex with Serena, and Serena was trying to keep it like under wraps, and so now Blair is really pissed.
So many things, like easily like a third of the plot of this episode could be massaged into
more. But yeah, so
well, don't Blair and Serena like make peace by like the end of episode 2?
I don't think it's that soon, but it's not very long. Yeah. We don't have to wait a super long time. But Serena is properly shamed about it. So it's like...
I was like, at this point, I'm on Blair's side. Well, she just disappeared and then expected to... And again, I mean, what are we assuming? Like 9 months?
Yeah, like a school year.
Pass? Yeah. At that time in your life, I mean, different people.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
And... we don't get real Ellen. I think we get real Eleanor in season 2 or episode 2 rather.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, a lot of V-necks, a lot of vests. Started also
Rufus's deep V in that breakfast scene at the beginning, where he is remarkably not making waffles for the first time ever.
That turns into a thing that I can't remember if is it ever an inside joke on the show, or was it?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Okay. They get there once they're all living at the plaza. Yeah.
Okay. And it took me watching you to realize what an actually good actor Penn Badgley is.
Because Dan is sort of like white bread. But like being able to do this character and then also
it makes Joe, Dan funnier to me.
It does, yeah. I imagine that Dan grew up to be Joe.
And
am I wrong?
And especially knowing some things that I know about Dan, it's like the call is coming from inside the house. So yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel a little bit. I think because it's the first episode, I'm kind of like I don't know where to go from here. So hopefully it will start to massage out as the show does. So I guess on that note, we're gonna go watch the second episode and see where it takes us.
You can comment on my headband. Doing a very Blair Waldorf. Yeah.
Bye. You know you love me. XOXO. Gossip Girl.